And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Crossing the Streams, episode 9. This is exciting. This is where it gets. We're going to kick things off.
9 times.
We have a special guest, Joe Bates, and we're going to kick it off because you all love it. We're going to kick it off with our theme song, and here we go.
Come on, Joey.
Do this quick so I have more time to talk later about my album. Here's a story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really, just between you and me. They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff and Ron, and Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. But man, we cross the streams. They made a live show out of their.
Where are we?
The crossing streams. Next slide. I demand professionalism. And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams. We cross the streams. We cross.
Wow.
That's the way we do it here. We cross OSS the streams.
Oh, boy, Joey.
That's fantastic.
That was the
version. I like the performance art version.
Yes, apologies to William Shatner.
I never heard of him.
I think Joe's a little too young to really know what the Brady Bunch is all about.
That's right.
I thought it was Gilligan's Island.
What's up, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 9 of Crossing the Streams. We're so excited to have you here. What is Crossing the Streams? It's a bunch of guys. It's a bunch of people getting together, talking about TV shows that we love and we think you should watch. And we try and convince you to watch it, or in some cases, convince you not to watch it. But here we are. Here's the crew. We got a special guest today, very special guest. You may know him from all the TVs, Joe Bates. Joe Bates. He's so famous. Just ask him. Joe, tell us about you. Tell us about your album. Your number.
A little bit about me, how famous I am. I was on CISO and regional on-demand Comcast, so you probably have seen me a little bit here and there. I'm a stand-up comic out of Indianapolis. Started a long time ago in Houston, Texas. And I have an album that came out last week. Joe Bates by Joe Bates. That is, they're saying, maybe the best album that came out that day.
Excellent.
Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you so much.
I know you know Scott Curtis, but he thinks he sang the theme song better than you. But so we're gonna have a.
Was he Dean Martin?
Yeah, he did sing it as Dean Martin. Yes. Oh man, so that's exciting. So congratulations on your number 1 iTunes.
Oh yeah, we went number 1 on iTunes. The first comic to ever do it. They sent me an award.
Wow.
Nice. Wait a minute.
Wait, did Bob? Were you ever number 1 on iTunes?
I was number 1 on iTunes this time last year for about a week.
Holy cow, we got 2 number 1s on the show today.
I don't know.
Well,
I gotta look up Wikipedia on this.
Guys,
it was gospel.
It was a mistake. Yeah, they put me in the gospel category.
That happened to me. They actually put my album in as spoken word and not comedy. They did change it. I had a day where I was just a spoken word album, not a comedy album. Competing with Gil Scott-Heron.
You and Leonard.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Bob, weren't you number 1 on your My Fans overall? Was it My Fans? Is that what it was?
No, I love Dean Martin. Oh wait,
OnlyFans.
Bob left.
OnlyFans.
All right,
so who's number 1 now, guys? That's my real question.
It doesn't. Hey, Roz. I know you probably already bought Joe Bates' album, but what's one of your favorite albums? Yeah, comedy albums when you were just a wee baby.
So when I was, as tragic it is to mention it now. Hi, Bob. Welcome back. As tragic as it is to mention it now, what's happening there. I have 2, but Bill Cosby himself is one of the funniest albums, comedy specials of all time. I mean, it was a genius comedy special. I mean, I have many times in my life just randomly uttered, so my wife sent me to my room, which is where I wanted to be in the first place. That's a great one. And then shout out to my good friend, John Coden, who I know is listening right now. But an album called National Lampoon's That's Not Funny, That's Sick, which was basically a sketch comedy album that featured Belushi, Bill Murray, Brian Doyle Murray, Christopher Guest, Richard Belzer, some of the funnier skits you'll ever hear, just audio based and, just superb. So that's a super. I actually, he had it on a cassette when we were roommates our freshman year in college. And I was in like a Kmart maybe a decade ago and just fiddling through the CD bin, which for those of you not old enough to remember, that's how we bought music at one point in time, and found it for like $2.99.
That's where Joe's CD is going to be next week.
Actually, I think Bob's.
So those are my two.
Anyone listening to paperweights?
Bob's CD is now available in the dollar at Walmart, which is
He's
cool.
actually probably with the thrown away CD.
Yeah,
you can buy Bob's. You can buy Bob's at your local Tower Records.
Sal, what's your favorite comedy album?
I want to tell a story. This probably isn't my favorite album of all time, but I had to tell this story. It was about circa 1993, and I was going over to a friend of mine who's actually a comic now, Bill Bushard, and we both were not comedians then. This is probably 1993, and I was going to pick him up to play basketball, and I walked into his house, and him and his brothers were down in the living room listening to a CD, and they're just like, hey, we're going to play basketball after this CD. You guys, you want to sit down and listen to it with us? We laughed so hard at Dennis Miller's Black and White that we just were rolling, and we just had such a great time with that CD that day. I just had to tell that story. Probably wasn't my favorite CD of all time, but God, man, just a memory that I can't forget. I mean, tears coming out of my eyes listening to that CD with my buddies, in a living room.
That's a great one. I loved Himself as well. I hope they're going to cancel us, Rosner, for even speaking of Bill Cosby. But my favorite though was Rappin' Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah,
love that. The song that's the greatest song ever. I think. And he's just so funny. I find him to be the funniest. I also had a Joan Rivers cassette as well. Because my parents were so into Joan Rivers, so I listened to them quite often. So what about you, Ron?
Nice.
Yeah, for me, it was all about Steve Martin growing up, man.
Nice.
The Wild and Crazy Guy, LP at the time. I think I listened to that 1,000 times. The bit about got to get a pair of cat handcuffs. Just I memorized the whole freaking thing. I mean, I would repeat that back to people. I still, even now, repeat that back to people. I still find Steve Martin to be an utter genius. But I will just say second to that, I also burned through Cheech and Chong, no pun intended. Cheech and Chong was crazy for me back then as well.
Yeah, good call, man.
Yeah,
good call. Bobby's back.
Okay.
I look at I got a
back
halo.
Again.
You guys aren't allowed to be in the same room and scream. I can hear you through the other person. Joe, do you have any favorite
Doing
comedy
everything
album?
I can.
What I grew up with, as you can tell, I'm much older than all of you. What I grew up with was the Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart was the first album I ever listened
nice.
to. And it's the best. It's still the best. The King Kong joke is still one of my favorite jokes I ever heard. Where the security guard's first day on the job at the Empire State Building, and that is the day King Kong climbed. When he calls in and he goes, sir, I was looking up the guide for apes and apes' toes. And he goes, because, there's an ape's toe sticking through the window, sir. So it was great. He had a lady in his hand. I don't think it was one of the cleaning ladies.
Bob Newhart was so freaking talented.
Oh, he's great.
I love the Bob Newhart.
He was,
joke.
and you know
he's still alive. So let's just say Bob Newhart is extremely talented.
His best friend was Don Rickles, which like they vacationed. They were best friends, and they couldn't be more different
Yes.
approach.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they just
What's even
perfect,
better,
a perfect match.
his album he recorded, he had never been at a club before. And
Interesting.
Is that right?
Because he had done all of the stuff through radio, so like everyone really likes your radio stuff. We wanted you to do you at a club, and he was like, I never done it before. And I think like the first time he did it, he finishes a set, and the crowd is yelling encore. So the host brings him back on stage, and Bob goes, "Well, I did everything. So what do you want to hear again?" I go, "Abraham Lincoln." He goes, "Okay, I'll do that bit again."
The Lincoln bit's the famous bit. They did that on Maisel as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. He's still alive, but you know who isn't? Dustin Diamond.
Oh,
I know. We lost another. It's like every week we do this show, a famous old person from a sick. Well, he wasn't old, only 44. Cancer.
It sucks, man. Can I tell a quick Dustin Diamond story, just real quick?
Yeah.
I booked him for our fundraiser in Wyandotte about 12 years ago. Me and my ex-wife at the time were running the room, and he couldn't have been nicer. He went to a party after the show, and he came to the party, and this was really funny. A snowstorm was coming in, and I live an hour away from Wyandotte. So I went up to him at the end, and then I said, "Dustin, thank you so much for coming out. And I really appreciate it." I said, "Here's $30 for a cab tomorrow morning because I'm not coming to get you because it's got a snowstorm." He goes, "Oh, man, I don't take cabs." And I go, "Why not?" And he goes, "Because the cab driver is just going to talk about Saved by the Bell the whole time." And I go, "Your cab is coming from Dearborn. I know for a fact the driver will have no idea who you are." And he goes, "No." He goes, "No, man, I can't take any chances." Seriously, he did not want to take a cab. And a guy by the name of Tim Zykowski, a local comedian here who lived near Wyandotte, took him to the airport for me the next morning. But that was just a cute little story that I want to tell him. But he couldn't have been nicer. He's just a really nice guy.
And all Tim talked about was Saved by the Bell. So
Yeah.
the
college years.
Yeah.
Right. So we got a great show coming up. But just for anyone who missed episode 8, we had some really great. We had an amazing deep dive into WandaVision, which continues to be amazing. And a new episode comes out this week. We went into Mindhunter, Lupin, which was, I think everyone's saying was the best one we covered. No, I'm just kidding. 60 Days In, and Servant on Apple TV Plus, which Ron has I
have a contract with them.
with Apple TV
little
Plus.
spiff commission.
But we got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff. We're going to talk about the Mad About You reboot. That's right. They rebooted it. Assuming Bob doesn't leave us, the great Buck Howard. Love Wagon, African Journey, which is Joe's going to cover that. None of us have any idea what that is. And there's a Sinatra that Sal's going to talk about, and Rosner's going to talk about McMillions. Whoops. So we got an amazing show for you. You guys ready? Ready to
Let's
cross
do
the
it.
streams?
Ready.
Get right into the crux.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to
baby.
kick it off. We're going to kick it off with McMillions, which is I'm going to let Howard take it over.
Yeah. So on HBO Max is where you find it. Came out last year. It is a 6-part docuseries, and I was riveted from the first 5 minutes of the show. So the gist of the story, if you haven't seen it or don't know about it, is in the late 1990s into the early 2000s, the McDonald's Monopoly game, which most of us have partaken in, some of us a little too often, was essentially rigged by, well, I don't want to tell you who, but was, because that's a big part of the story.
You think?
It was Ron.
It was rigged. And so it starts off with the first people they kind of came to discover, and then they kind of build a case from there. And they talk about how they built the case, and it's fascinating. You get to the end of the episodes, and you're like, I know who it is and I know how they did it. And then you get to the next episode and you're like, holy crap, that's not even close. So when they get to the final reveal of all the people that were involved, and it touches on the mob and it touches on all these people that were totally innocent and church going and somehow ended up in all this, and it became part of divorce proceedings. And it was just really, really riveting and amazing. And I thought it was excellent. And the craziest part about it is I kept saying to my wife when we were watching it, how do I not remember this being a significantly bigger story because they had the attorney general, doing a press conference talking about it. And the simple reason is the reveal to the general public of how this all happened was right during the days after September 11th. So it was totally on the back page, even though it was a major story. But it's great. It's really, they flow so fast. The ability now, when they were released, to Jeff Dwoskin's point, who you all follow on Facebook and Twitter, made the case yesterday for episodic television as opposed to releasing an entire season at one time. This, when it came out once a week, and it absolutely captured your attention, waiting for the next one. I thought it was excellent.
So Howard,
give it a.
I'm confused. Is it a documentary or is it like is it fictionalized?
Yeah, no, totally. No, total documentary. There's a couple small little reenactments, but it's not really based on that. It builds the story of they kind of start off with video of them, McDonald's Corporation, and thinking a film crew filming winner testimonials. And then as you get into it, you discover that they were staged testimonials. McDonald's knew that, and they were working with the FBI, and the film crew were FBI, trying to get these people not admitting to the crime, but going, lying when they knew that there was something hinky, if I may use that term.
Right.
And then they get into how they found that out, who was involved, and then they leave it up to the last episode for you to find out who it was that blew the whistle on everybody. And then the other part of it was as they're going through the series, they're like, but we could never figure out how they were getting their hands on the winning game pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last episode, they tell you how that happened too. And it's crazy.
Wow.
It's good.
It's really good.
I worked in the promotion industry for a while. So that incident ruined a lot of things for, for seeding and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. When I watched McMillions, I enjoyed it, but at some points I felt like this could have been less episodes. This could have been shorter. This could have been,
it could have been, right. Yeah, I agree.
That was my only. The story was amazing, but I felt like it's like we need to make this. This is a 2-episode thing, but we need 8. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could have done it as a 1-hour Dateline NBC, sure, But I liked it that it was a documentary that because it was 6 episodes, they built the drama as if it weren't a documentary, which I kind of enjoyed. Captured the mind a little bit more from episode to episode. So and to your point, Jeff, if they had released all 6 episodes at one time, it wouldn't have been nearly as enjoyable over a 6-hour stretch as it was releasing 6 individual episodes. So it was great. It was really amazing. Something that we all have been. Yeah, it was great.
It is interesting because they use the cover of 9/11 to hide their criminal activity, and the only other people doing it at that time was the Catholic Church.
That's actually a good point. That's actually true. That was right on top of
So Illuminati much? Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Interesting. Joe's got Joe comes ready with a headphone, mic, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
He's going for Bill. He's going for Bob's job.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't I just drop off right now? Why don't we do that?
I can get
I'm
glasses.
the only one with a halo.
Yes. All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna go to the next one. This is Sinatra, All or Nothing at All. It's on Netflix, I think, and HBO.
HBO.
And I think it was on both. And Sal, talk us through this.
Yeah, no problem.
Sally.
This is going to be really short. Frank Sinatra was born. He sang 300 songs, banged a bunch of women, and he died. That's it. Done. No, I'm just kidding.
Good night, everybody.
I mean, what more is there?
No, but I know this is a tough one to kind of review because obviously it's a biography, it's a documentary, and it's about one of the most famous singers of all time. This was dear to my heart because I've been a Frank Sinatra fan my whole life. I mean, I love the guy, and just to watch this biography, you find out more about him than you did just by listening to his music. And first of all, just the cinematography and the photos and the pictures and the videos, that's worth it enough to watch this because you just see the Vegas days and his John F. Kennedy days and his Ava Gardner days, and it's all captured on some of his home videos, and so it's just really cool in that realm. It's a 2-part series. This was kind of I don't know if anybody shares his birthday, but I want to say he was born on December 12th, 1915. They say that if you sit in a room full of like 25, 30 people, somebody will have the same birthday. So does anybody have a December 12th birthday?
I do.
Get out. Seriously?
No.
Hey.
No.
No. Okay.
That's it.
January 22nd, the same day my album came
All right.
out.
I thought-
Oh, you
nailed it.
comedian.
So anyway, he was born on December 12th, 1915. He was an only child. He was born to Italian parents. And this was kind of funny. This, again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this was a funny story. He had problems coming out of his mother. He did not want to come out of his mother. And I think that's why he slept with so many women. He just was very fond of that place. But I thought that was an interesting story.
I'm literally frozen with
That
comments
place.
about that right now.
I'm trying to clean it up for the Jeff Dwoskin show. But so it starts out, and I don't know about you guys, but I love biographies, and I always love how they started because I love to see how they struggle. That's the part of any famous actor or musician or whatever. So that part was really cool, and he struggled for many, many years and reinventing himself. Just some of the things that were very just kind of stuck out to me was how he just never gave up. I mean, even when he kind of went out on top, and this is really cool. When he first made it, there's a lot of luck involved with any singer that makes it. And one of the things that really stuck out with me on him was he got to be on this radio show, and from 11 to 11:15 at night, they would play his music, and or they would play All or Nothing at All. That was his first song, and it just blew up on that radio for 15 minutes, and that was the start of it. And I love that part of the story because somebody gave him a shot for 15 minutes, and he took advantage of it, and it got him on the road. He started touring. I mean, I didn't realize he played with Tommy Dorsey and just all these great band musicians, and then he had a chance to move up. And I love all the contract stuff that he did. He never screwed anybody over. You know, he always, even if he was leaving somebody as a manager, he always made sure that they were okay with it. And I just thought that was really cool. That was one thing that stuck out for me. He was very big on racial equality. I know he made Sammy Davis Jr. a star, but I didn't know how much he did for just the inner city and all that kind of stuff. So that was really cool to stick out for me. And obviously we know all the other things that happened to him. But the thing that was crazy, I was talking to Bob earlier, Nancy Sinatra, his wife, she was a godsend because she married him and had a family with him, but she knew what he was doing out on the road. And she just kind of let it slide until obviously it got too much because he fell in love with Ava Gardner and then Mia Farrow down the line. And he had that whirlwind kind of that mobster kind of mentality. And the reason, this is really cool, the reason he got this mobster mentality was he was going to Miami, Florida to vacation with his wife. And he was on tour and he says, honey, let's go to Miami, Florida. And we're going to just vacation for a couple weeks. And the weather was really bad in Miami. So he flies to Cuba for 3 days just to hang out. And that's when he met Lucky Luciano and all that, which I thought was really interesting. That's kind of how that genre came about. But I just a really, really good biography, I thought. And if you want to watch something that just taking a guy that just was a mega star and just kind of see the humanity in him was really cool. And I just enjoyed it. I give it 5 tomato sauce.
Whoa.
Nice.
Oh, my
Five.
goodness.
Hey,
That's a lot of tomato sauce.
That's a
It
lot
is.
of tomato sauce.
It is.
hey, Sal.
And,
I haven't seen the documentary, but I always found him fascinating. One of my favorite movies that is almost impossible to find. You can find pieces of it on YouTube. I don't know if you ever saw it. There was a made for HBO movie called The Rat Pack.
yes.
With Ray Liotta as Sinatra, Don Cheadle as Sammy Davis,
I saw
Joe
that.
Mantegna as Dean Martin, and a lot of the stuff in there is kind of some of the things you mentioned. You know, they talk about like there's the whole piece with him acting as best man, standing up for Sammy Davis at an interracial wedding, and you know how it was so tough for him because it was while he was supporting Kennedy. And the perception of, you know, being part of a interracial wedding party. So, you know, Sammy put it off and waited until after the election. So
no doubt about it.
But it's really great, and the overwhelming loyalty that he had to everyone in his life was
phenomenal. Cool. Just one quick point, and then move on to the next guy. But what I thought, and good point, is Vegas. They said Vegas was building up. They were building casinos like crazy, but people weren't coming to Vegas. They were building too fast, and people weren't coming out to Vegas. And that's when Sinatra brought his crew out there, Dean Martin and all that, and they just started playing on the Strip. And all of a sudden, people just started flocking to Vegas. So really, Sinatra and these guys actually made Vegas because Vegas was like building too fast, but people weren't going out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And you're right about this, about the Sammy Davis Jr. John F. Kennedy actually said, I don't want Sammy Davis Jr. and his white wife around. He literally said that as president to Sinatra. So I don't know what happened, how they went through that, but yeah, that was obviously interracial couples back then was very hard to look at as far as a country. But great documentary. I definitely recommend it to everybody.
I'm shocked that you wanted to talk about Frank Sinatra, Sal, because every time you tell me a cool story, it's about a dimly lit room where someone's eating a steak.
Which, by the way, me and Bob do our show, the Sal and Bob Show. We went to the famous steakhouse there in Vegas, and they have an escape room, and they actually used to have Sammy Davis Jr. Leave the escape room. They'd have to send Sammy out the back door at the Golden Steer Steakhouse where me and Bob did a show there. So we got to see the escape room where Sammy Davis Jr. used to leave. Yeah.
Wow.
Were you able to get out of it in an hour?
Was that?
Were you able to get out of there in an hour?
Yeah, I mean, the girls were flocking us, Joe. It was crazy.
Oh, cool. It's fine.
It's interesting, Sally, because when I think of Frank Sinatra, I always assumed he was in the mob, or at least controlled by the mob. But from what you're saying, that's not really how it went down. It was
There's a lot of that in there. Obviously, you got to watch a documentary. I mean, it's 4 hours long, and they kind of go into all the mob thing and the John F. Kennedy thing. Yeah. He wasn't as connected as you probably thought. I think, believe me, if Twitter would have been going on back then, holy shit, Sinatra would have been in trouble.
Yeah. I get the sense though that he kind of enjoyed that notoriety though, that he hung with those people.
I love how Sal just takes everything that's in this documentary as if it's 100% fact. This is the gold standard on Sinatra. Everything is like, all right.
Hey, he did give it 5 tomato jars.
He did.
I think this is your first 5 tomato jar recommendation, isn't it?
For context, this is exactly how Sal feels after watching Fox News. Okay, let's move on. Wow. All right, our next one is is that Areola Love Wagon? Ainori Love Wagon. So Joe is going to take us through this one. Joe, we're so excited for you. This is your debut.
Okay. You're welcome. Ainori Love Wagon, African Journey. My girlfriend and I, during the COVID thing, we ran out of shows quicker than we thought we would. So we started watching foreign reality television.
There you go.
And we came across Ainori Love Wagon, African Journey, which is a show of Japanese people dating each other to see if they would fall in love while at the same time touring the great continent of Africa. So they'll be learning about different countries and then afterwards awkwardly talking to each other to see how they're doing. They're not allowed to touch each other. They're not allowed to really even say they like each other. They just eventually have to go to the person who drives the love wagon, say, I want tickets back to Japan, then profess their love to somebody, and they decided they want to go back or keep touring Africa. And it's so awkward. At one point, they're learning. So it's like 4 guys and 3 girls, and the opening theme explains everybody in very short blurs. Or like, this person's half Filipino and their blood type is A. This person's a virgin and their blood type. It says the blood type for everybody, just in case you're wondering. It doesn't come into factor at all.
In case there's a mass spillage.
There's no reason for it. There is no sense of love at all in any of this. Most people get really sick. They're mostly in the hospital for a lot of the series. And it's so ridiculous. And they have apparently it was a reality show 15 years ago. They brought back somebody from 15 years ago to be on it again because he saw them and told the producers, like, I'd like to be back and see if I can fall in love again. And they bring him in the show. They just put him on the show where all he does is really help the virgin lose weight. That's the only thing he does the entire time.
It sounds like a mashup of every American reality. It's like The Biggest Loser, The Bachelor.
Oh, it's
Dating in the Dark.
It's something totally different. It's so weird. They when somebody leaves, they have to pick up somebody new. What they do is they drive the wagon around the town, and then they just see a Japanese person holding a sign saying "Love Wagon" in like the rain. It doesn't matter what they don't try to help the shot out at all. It's whatever the weather is, and they're just drenched, and they all run out of the wagon and get the person to put in the wagon, and then they leave. My favorite episode.
I can't tell if Joe is recommending this show or not.
Oh, I recommend it highly. I recommend it so much because you watch it and you're like, I would recommend watching it with somebody else. Watching it alone, you have a problem. But watching it with someone it's so fun to make fun of. At one point, they learn about child soldiers, and then they show reenactments, and they show a kid blow up from a landmine, and then they go back to the people trying to fall in love. And then they just go sit awkwardly on a bench and go, well, that was kind of sad, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Well, I'll see you later. And then they leave. It's like, what? For one genocide, that's the whole episode. They start crying. Everyone starts crying. And then they try to talk to each other. They talk to each other or not.
Is it a series? Is it a series or episode?
It's 26 episodes.
26.
There's 26 episodes of what you're describing right now.
a lot of people get sick during this. I can't
I
stress
can
that
barely-
enough. A lot of people get sick.
I'm
many
having a hard
kids-
time sitting through your description,
How many kids
Oh
get
my
blown
God.
up?
let alone 26
unbelievable.
episodes.
It's
26
so,
episodes.
They
My
called
God.
Mount Kilimanjaro at the end of it, which wasn't what they were supposed to do, but they just on a whim decided to do it. And not all of them make it.
Wait, people
Sounds like
die?
my Bumble date from a chick
People
from
don't
Taylor.
die, but like the director and the staff starts to become part of the show too. One person falls in love with one of the assistants, and they have to sit her down and be like, "You cannot love anybody on the crew. It has to be someone on the show. Besides, he's very ugly."
So there's that.
Unreal.
There's
And
nobody
just
getting
make fun of how
together at
ugly
all.
this guy is.
26 episodes, nobody mashes with anybody.
There are people that say they love each other and go back to Japan,
I
and
don't
then
think
every
that
time
was the
someone leaves, they
question.
bring new people back in.
I don't think that was the question. I think Sally was asking if people were banging each other on the show.
Oh no,
But,
there's no way. Nobody kisses on the show.
Sounds
Like
like,
when they
sounds like Survivor
when they-
or something. You know?
Yeah, it's
when
a
they
Japanese
profess their
show.
love-
Even if they were doing it, it'd be fuzzed out.
I'm with you there,
Alright,
Jeff.
yeah.
I get you. I get it,
if they
Jeff.
profess their love and the person says yes, they are allowed to kiss, and it's always the most awkward kiss you're ever gonna. It's oh my god, this is
Joe, as strange as it sounds, I may actually watch this thing because of
Oh.
what you were describing.
you gotta get Stockholm syndrome. I can't stress this enough. You gotta force yourself to love it.
Are the episodes like sequential? Or can you watch any random episode and have the same experience, or do you gotta watch it in order?
I would say that the episodes are sequential, but none of it makes any sense anyways. So episode 8. I would watch episode 8. That's the one with child soldiers. That's the best one by far.
Child soldier.
And it's like,
Holy shit.
and it's definitely. I will say this, like, forewarned. There is like a layer of racism that's going on, but I don't know.
So
All I know is somehow white people aren't involved, and you're just kind of you're like, I don't feel good, but it's pretty funny.
yeah. So you got racism, child
Is this
endangerment.
racist
Feel
towards
good.
Asians or Asians racist towards Africans?
That I don't know. It kind of goes back and forth each episode of what's going on. They meet the ugliest man in the world, and he tells them how sad his life is. They're like, "Isn't it fun to be like a performer?" And he goes, "I want to die." They're like, oh, "Okay."
All right, I'm gonna have to. What is this on again? Netflix?
Netflix, yeah, they have Ainori, Love Wagon, Asian Journey, but it's not as fun because they kind of know the areas. Although they do say in Asian Journey, they do say that Myanmar, nobody is ever mad. That's what they have a whole thing where they just say blatant lies about countries, the narrators, and they go, nobody in Myanmar has ever been sad or mad. Meanwhile, there's a genocide going on in the country currently.
And a coup.
So,
Military
so
coup just
Joe,
took over.
Joe, you hadn't heard of the show before you started watching it, right? So,
No,
so
I
my
ran past it. I was like, let's see what this is about. And
my
thank God
question
they
is,
did.
how far into your search criteria did you have to go to find this show on Netflix? Like, I'm figuring you probably had to search for 20 minutes before you found this
So
thing.
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you exactly how I got there. Because we were watching Instant Hotel, which is an Australian reality show. We started watching some Australian reality show, which is a pretty good. It's like Airbnb versus Airbnb. It's a good show too. Instant Hotel. So we were like, they're like, you like foreign reality television, don't you? And we're like, I guess, sure. We checked it out. And
Joe, now I know why you didn't know how to sing the Brady Bunch theme song.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm
That's
stuck
right.
on this stuff. Also, every time they give them money, they give them allowance, but they always say it's a poor man's allowance. So like sometimes they're just like finding places on the street to sleep because they can't afford a hotel or they can't afford food, so they go fishing. It is the worst way to fall in love with somebody ever created.
Well,
That's great, man.
based on your recommendation, there's a group on Reddit trying to drive up the Netflix stock price.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah, I give it 6 tomato cans.
Ooh.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, we don't do that.
We don't have 6.
Joe, I'm gonna watch
I-
that too.
I
we
give you 6 cases of dysentery for this.
Yeah, I will say if you're gonna watch only one episode, which I'm assuming that's the most of you will ever give it, episode 8 is the one to watch.
Yeah.
With the child soldiers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. A reenactment of children being
Child
blown up by
soldiers.
landmines. I'm sold. All right. All right, here we go. We're gonna go, and then okay, here we go. Ready? We got another one. This is a sleeper. The Great Buck Howard. This is Bob Phillips is going to take us through this.
Yes. And I have to apologize for having to move and having this sunburst behind me. But we've got Wi-Fi issues here at Casa de Phillips. And so my show partner, Sal, has got the stone room. So anyway, The Great Buck Howard. This is, I love this movie because I love little sleeper movies. And and I actually had watched this several years ago, but I watched it again during the first lockdown. And it's one of those movies that, I mean, I looked up the gross for this, and it was $130,000. That was the first week's gross for. I mean, that didn't cover the craft services for this film, right? So, John Malkovich plays Buck Howard, who you pick him up in his career where he's on the downside of it, but he's not out. He's not a delusional guy. He knows where he is in the world and in the entertainment world, but he keeps on knowing that there's going to be a resurgence in his career, and you don't know why he feels this way, because he's so cornball and his act is so archaic. But he plays a mentalist, and even though he's sort of on the back nine of his career, he never stops being good at what he does. It's not like he just doesn't know how to perform anymore or how to wow people. It's just that like he keeps saying, anytime he's introduced, remember to tell them that I had 65 appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, not that nitwit who hosts it now. He can't get over the fact that his star has fallen. So you pick him up, and he's in his 50s, and he's doing shows in Dayton, Ohio, to half-filled high school theaters. Mm-hmm. And every single town he's in, he greets them with, "I love this town." It doesn't matter where he is. He's got this exuberance for what he does. And you think that he's at this sort of deluded fallen star. He's not. He just knows that he's just going to keep doing what he does and hoping for better days. Well, introduced somewhere in like the first 15 minutes is Colin Hanks, who plays, oddly enough, Tom Hanks' son in this. And he's supposed to be going to law school, but he can't stand it. And he just wants to find himself. So he finds himself in Buck Howard's orbit and becomes his intern, and just sort of is bemused by this whole idea of this fading star looking, to get back his fame. And he meets Emily Blunt, who is I think she sort of plays Buck's previous publicist. And what's that?
And is hot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And is always hot. Yeah.
In case she's listening.
Movie. Every movie needs a little hotness. And she is.
She's listening. Joe.
She and Colin Hanks do the nasty and all that stuff. But that's sort of ancillary to it. What I love about this movie is that Malkovich is one of my favorite actors. He's always playing sort of iconoclastic characters, and he does this so beautifully. He's got a toupee that's just, who knows where he got this thing. But he just sort of ambles through this film knowing something that not everybody else does. And what he knows is that he's going to do something that's going to bring back his stardom, okay? And I don't want to ruin the movie for people, but he pulls off a feat about 3/4 of the way through the movie that astonishes everybody, even you as a movie viewer, and you're like, damn, I love the way this is going. So it's just there's nothing earth-shaking about this movie. There's nothing societally conscious about it. There's nothing that you would walk away from saying, oh my God, that really opened my eyes. What it does is it introduces you to a character that has supreme faith in himself, and he's just a complete pain in the ass to everybody, but you love him in spite of that. I mean, he says things like, Colin Hanks, he says, I need you to bring me some water. And Colin Hanks brings him a water, and he tastes it, and he says, this is filtered water. I'm not an iron. The whole movie is like that. He's got these little shitty comments that he throws out at people, but everybody seems to love him. He obviously loves himself. And, the whole subplot with, there's actually a couple of subplots. One is with Colin Hanks and his father. The other's with he and Emily Blunt. I don't care about any of those things. I just cannot stop watching Malkovich. The guy is so fascinating. And he plays this weird little character with such love and devotion to it that you got to see it. And then the end of the movie is a complete triumph of mediocrity. It's just it's just sort of, you just, at the end, you kind of go, oh, that's okay. That's where this was going. I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with this. And so I'm giving it thumbs up. I can't give you 2 thumbs up because I'm actually holding my iPad so it doesn't slip forward and I lose Wi-Fi again.
So far, I'm going to watch everything that everybody's been talking about tonight. So great show, guys.
I don't want to ruin it, but Greg Cook Rogers has an identical twin that Hugh Jackman can't figure out.
Yeah. Right. Oh, we love that one too. That's a great Prestige.
Yeah.
Wait, don't spoil it. All right, wait, we got one. We got one more, and this is a doozy. We saved the best for last. Boom. What? The Mad About You reboot?
I love the original Mad About You. I didn't know they did a reboot.
They did a
This
reboot.
should just be titled Why.
Yeah, that's more like a reboob.
What was the song? Does anybody know the song?
Yeah,
I can sing it for you.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I don't
Go ahead,
know.
William Shatner.
There once was a man, and he was Paul Reiser, and then there's Helen Hunt.
That's pretty good.
I forgot that.
That sounded actually pretty good.
It was
That was
pretty
right
good.
on.
It says, I'm mad about you. You're mad about me, babe. Couple of fools running wild, aren't we? Pushing the day into the nighttime, sometime between, I don't know the actual. The mad about you, mad about you, mad about you. Mad
Okay.
Anyway, that was not
enough.
original. It was, yes, I know. So, anyway, hey, Jerry, what's up? Thank you, sir. So, okay, so Mad About You. So Mad About You was in the 90s. Mad About You, for those of you who watched TV in the 90s, was a show that everybody watched. It was on like with Seinfeld, and it was on with like, it was that whole kind of, wasn't it like, it was Cosby, Seinfeld. It was part of that block that just everybody watched. It was with Seinfeld though. And as time went on, Seinfeld, Friends, all these other shows remained in syndication. And Mad About You is one of those shows that, while everybody watched it at the time, everybody, and thought, oh, this is the greatest thing, and this couple, everyone related to it. Nope, except Bob, who was too busy watching The Great Buck Howard. Anyway, so you watch this show, but if you think back, there isn't anyone who can think back and remember anything that happened except maybe the episode where the baby cried a lot. It all kind of blurred into every episode, kind of just blurred into it. And it was enjoyable. Everyone enjoyed it, but I don't know that anyone missed it. You know what I mean? And I don't know that anybody watched it in the last 20 some years, right? So, you get like Will and Grace comes back and picks up. I mean, if you didn't know that you were watching a reboot of Will and Grace, you would have thought that was the original series. I mean, it was like great. Roseanne comes back, whatever you want to say about Roseanne, killed it until she took the Ambien and screwed up her career. Even Tim Allen's show came back, but that wasn't so much a reboot, but they kind of brought that back. So they started to like see the idea that you can bring these shows back. So Mad About You. And who grabs Mad About You? NBC, that it was on for many years and was huge for. CBS, HBO, Netflix? Nope. Spectrum on Demand. I know what you're saying to yourselves, Jeff. What is Spectrum on Demand? Exactly. Nobody knows what that is. And
I think my comedy's on Spectrum on Demand.
right. You can get two things on Spectrum on Demand: the original Joe Bates album and the Mad About You. but of recent, probably in the last few months or so, Mad About You reboot is now on Amazon Prime for free. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, and that's how I discovered it. Now, other shows that have been rebooted, like Karate Kid, was in obscurity. People knew about it. Anyone who saw it loved it on YouTube Red, but most people didn't have YouTube Red, right? But when it came onto Netflix, almost overnight became a cultural sensation, right? They even Cobra Kai, right? And what did I call it?
Karate Kid, but that's right.
Cobra Kai, sorry. And so it became a cultural sensation, like immediately, the most talked about thing ever. They even had another season, and they got another season already they're preparing, right? Mad About You came out on Amazon Prime a few months ago, huge show from the 90s, and most of you are finding out about it right now. Okay. So here's the thing. Helen Hunt, when you watch it, I felt there's 12 episodes, and at the end, in the last episode, our friend Ricardo Flanagan is actually the cop in the episode. So that was a nice treat. But I felt the same way. The end of these 12 episodes, I felt exactly the same way. I can't tell you pretty much anything that happened, but I enjoyed it while I was doing it, but I never need to see it again. If they did it more, I would watch it, because what I did realize was that there's an art to the sitcom. And these folks, whether it was memorable enough or classic enough, Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt and the banter that they did together in this reboot is some of the best dialogue and back and forth of any two characters I've ever seen ever. It's like they didn't miss a beat. It's like it's just amazing. It's like watching like just sitcom jazz. It's just great. And
well, I was going to say, which is amazing, because she is without a doubt one of the worst cinematic actors of the last half century. All you have to do is watch Twister, and whatchamacallit, Castaway.
Yeah.
Her acting in those two movies is abysmal at best.
Joe's pissed.
She was pretty good in as good as it gets, but I'm with you on that. Twister was an abortion of a movie.
She won the Academy Award for As Good as It Gets, but look,
Oscar winner.
Oscar winner, right? So the
Marissa Tomei won an Oscar.
And she's great too. What naming great actresses? What are we doing?
My biological clock is ticking.
I'm not saying the feelings of Helen Hunt by my co-guests are not the of everyone. No, but you can say what you want about those things. But Helen Hunt in this sitcom as Jamie Buckman was great, and Paul and Jamie Buckman, two great characters.
Can I just ask you guys though, as comedians, right? You guys are professional comedians. Where does Paul Reiser stack up? Like, I never thought the guy was that funny, but maybe I'm wrong here.
You know what I like about Paul Reiser? I saw an interview with him one time where he was probably 5 years into his comedy career, and he said he was walking up to the comedy club and he saw all these people in line, and he's like, he wanted to go tell these people in line, he's like, don't pay all this money to see me. I'm just because most comedians have so freaking low self-esteem sometimes, and he just went up to these people. Yeah. Don't pay all this money to see me. I'm just telling the same jokes that I've always told. I don't know. It was a really cool interview with him. So I think great stand-up.
I think Paul Reiser, he's considered well up there. He's not like when you list names, for some reason his name doesn't come up, but any comedian that it will list comedians will talk about Paul Reiser coming up with Paul Reiser.
He's a respected elder, 80s and early 90s comedian.
I think if you get a sitcom, you have an act.
Yes.
Tim Allen had 4 minutes, but most people, they have an act and everything, so they know what they're doing. And
So anyway, back to Mad.
Paul Reiser.
Wait, I got to give my thing. So the interesting thing about the reboot is they ignore the season finale of the original show, which kind of went into the future. They kind of got divorced. Janine Garofalo becomes their daughter. they ignore all that and they kind of take place where the daughter's now going to college. And so that's kind of the thread of them dealing with becoming empty nesters again. But everyone's came back for the show, and it's amazing how much they look almost identical to when they were on it. The only person that didn't come back was the person who played, I think, Lila Kenzel, who played Fran. She didn't, who was Richard Kind's wife on the show. She's the only one that didn't come back. But but other than that, it was just, but again, if you liked Mad About You in the 90s, you should watch it. You will totally enjoy it. If you never saw Mad About You, there's nothing there's no reason, I think, to run to this version of Mad About You. It doesn't reinvent anything. It doesn't create this new world or anything like that. But if you loved it in the 90s, you have fond memories of it, everyone except Bob, then you should, by all means, watch it. It's a good show just to kind of, I consider like when, I have shows that you just kind of watch when you're in a lull from other shows, you know what I mean? And so I think it's a good one for that. It's a good one for that.
I seem to recall the original show had a lot of banter of them in bed together. Is there a lot more of that?
There's bed banter. There's a lot of banter. They're great at banter. You watch it and you'll be like, you watch it and you'll go like, oh, Jeff was right. They had some amazing banter.
Did Paul Reiser lose like 100 pounds to do this reboot? Because in Stranger Things, he was as big as a house. He must have gone on some kind of some workout regimen, right?
We sort of
did the.
Oh yeah, he was in the Kaminsky Method. He looked. It looked scary how old he looked in the Kaminsky Method.
Will this lead to a reboot of Caroline in the City or not?
I hope so. I hope
so.
so.
Reboot of Friends. Do you think
no, you didn't say yes, did you?
I enjoyed his dark character in Aliens.
Suddenly Susan.
There's a lot of good shows. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this was a great show. I think we had some amazing things that we talked about. It's been so exciting, and it's time to say goodbye. Say goodbye, Joe. Pitch your album. Say goodbye.
Oh, hey, you can buy my album on iTunes, Amazon Music, Joe Bates by Joe Bates. If I sell 10, I think I'm number 1 on iTunes. So just 10 people need to buy it. And also, if you like podcasts, I have a podcast called Entertainment Federation Wrestling. It's a episodic serial thing. All season 1's on YouTube and iTunes. We announce it. There's mat noises. It sounds like you're actually watching a show. Father-son tag team. The dad never shows up. At Joe Bates Comedy, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well said. I'll say goodbye. But as Frank Sinatra, please.
Fly me to the moon.
Ooh.
Let me sing among the stars. Goodbye.
Can I dance next to you while you do this?
Ron, say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, you guys can find me on iTunes purchasing Joe Bates. And I will, with that, I'll say goodnight, man.
Roz, say goodnight.
Good night. I'll be on my couch eating candies produced by the Mondelez Global Corporation.
Nice.
And as always, I'm Jeff Dwoskin. Yeah, host of Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. What? Go ahead. What?
Before you tap out, are we going to mention our theme show on February 17th?
We're going to do a theme show on February 17th. Go ahead, Howard, real quick.
Yeah, so we've talked about this. We're going to have a show on February 17th where we will be talking about shows, TV shows that are streamable now that were all canceled way too soon. So never had a series finale, just were canceled, were critically acclaimed, but the networks canceled them. And so for the next couple weeks, I'm sure Jeff will have some posts about it. We'll take your suggestions as to shows that
can I do the Donald Trump biography?
It's a showcase.
Can we do shows that should have been canceled but weren't? And
that's a different theme. All right,
that's a different theme show.
Everybody, thank you very much. I'm Jeff Dwoskin. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you next week on Crossing the Streams. Wow. Thank you for joining
Hey.
us for this episode of Crossing the Streams, brought to you by scenesnobs.com and part of the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Your hosts, of course, Jeff Dwoskin, Sal D'Amelio, Bob Phillips, Ron Lippett, and Howard Rosner. Follow us all on the socials, and we'll see you next week and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars. We're going live and crossing more streams.